Hello again, and welcome to Winning with the Wrangler at Dick Powell's Leadership Corner, brought to you by Earth, Wind, Fire, Water, Training and Development, where our passion is building leaders of today and tomorrow. Leaders, the information on today's program was gathered from, well, many different places and many different people. So if you hear yourself in our conversation today, please remember, it is not all about you. Now, today we have with us Miss Robin. How are you doing today?
I am terrific.
You know, this subject that we're going to talk about today, I have to tell you that is something that is near and dear to me. It seems like more and more organizations are in what I would call organizational distress.
Okay.
In other words, they're on the decline, and people are always asking, well, why is this happening? But I'm not so sure they're not looking to themselves to find some answers. What's your thoughts?
I think, first of all, organizations tend to run on autopilot.
Run on autopilot. Okay, I'll agree with that.
And leadership doesn't always pay attention when stuff starts on the decline. And then looking at what they can do at that point. Sometimes it's entirely too late.
Let's talk about this decline.
Okay.
Now, first of all, I think that sometimes that when the realization hits, it's so overwhelming that there's just some things that happen there.
Well, I think the first thing they do is, like in all things, deny it.
Yeah.
And that doesn't help at all. It just puts everything in a slower
pace.
Recovery stage. I think sometimes when organizations start declining, there's a lot of little reasons that suddenly are big reasons.
Well, let's look at a couple of those.
Just don't notice it. Okay.
The reason I wanted to take just a moment to look at some of those reasons is because what I'm seeing, and no matter what organization, I see these same reasons staring at us.
Right, and I also want to do a side thing here that says it's normal for organizations to have rises and falls. Life is a wave. It's not an incline.
That's true. That's true.
So there's some reasons for rises and falls, and you need to acknowledge them.
But I think when we don't realize, sometimes we realize too late.
Right.
But there are some symptoms.
There are some symptoms
that are right across the board. The first symptom that I look at is a decline in membership.
Correct.
And I always ask the questions, well, why? And there's usually no answers. Well, we've asked 14 million people and everybody said no. Okay.
Okay, but the other part of that is when people stop showing up for whatever reason, whatever it is, and this could be at a meeting, in a group, in a family get together, in a church, and showing for work, whatever. Is to ask them why. You know, they're not coming and they're exiting. Go do an exit interview and just send somebody who's neutral and they can take the heat and say, what are your reasons for not participating anymore? Could you just be honest?
Well, but you know, it always seems to me that everybody struggles with just doing that one. I think
it's a huge step. Nobody takes it.
That little piece. I think, gee, they really. Why do you think that's so terrible to go do?
I think they really don't want to know the answer. They want to know the truth. I don't think we think we know and we're good with that, but if we really know, we're going to have to deal with it, and we don't want to do that. And I think that's a huge part much of the time.
Another one that we looked at is even though our membership was kind of stagnant, staying the same, we had a very low participation rate. In other words, people weren't coming out.
Yeah, they might still be members. They don't want to tell you they don't want to be members anymore, but they're not coming out to the programs or the meetings or whatever's going on.
Well, I believe a lot of people like to have memberships so they can tell people, I belong to such and such.
There's probably that 80-20 or 793 rule on that. That they're just ticking things off and keeping a list of what they belong to. They're really not participating in any of it.
And that's the piece that I think that in organizations, we don't sometimes look at who are the people who are actually participating and who are the ones who are just getting a badge.
And not just participating, but contributing.
Well, that's huge.
That's huge. So if they're just a name on a thing and they show up once in a while for a meeting, that means they're a member. That's all good, but they're really not contributing. They're not participating. So do you really need them?
Well, that's another topic.
Which is a sad,
I'm going to tell
thing.
You what.
It's a sad thing, but reality, if they're not adding anything, they might be taken away from someone else who would add if they weren't there. Right. You don't know.
Now, one of the things that we both, Rob and I, have found is this lack of support from the institution
Right.
that is really supporting you, or
the group, or whatever your main support foundation is, if they are not really supporting you in any real way, that's a problem.
and that really
And that
shows
could add to the decline.
well, sure, because people want to
Yeah.
be with winners.
Oh, they
I don't
do.
care what anybody tell you, that people like to be around other people who are winners.
They do.
And if your organization is not a winner, or it's not getting any support from the mothership or whatever,
right. You're going to die.
I think that after a while, people go, gee, well, they don't care. Why
Why
do we
should I?
care?
Why should I? And I'm addressing that in one of the groups I'm involved with. We just hit a 30-year mark from a major change. And I got to tell you, the institution that we are connected with really has not supported us much at all in the past 30 years.
And
so we're going to have to acknowledge that.
Yeah. So what do we're going to have to make some decisions on what we're going to do about that.
Right. And we've been trying to do little things to help them grow their part of the group. And it's gone unsupported by the group, to be honest, grossly undersupported. So I'm going to have to really address some of that.
But again, people like to be with winners, and when the organization doesn't support your group,
I'm not sure how much longer it can survive.
Now, another big one though is the lack of funds.
Well, and I think that goes hand in hand with lack of participation and everything else.
Well, it does.
So your funding gets cut off. So some of the things you maybe used to support or used to be able to do, you really can't do anymore. You have to stop.
And so those things that maybe someone was interested in, that your group was doing, now no longer has the funds to do it. And they go, well, gee, I don't really want to do this anymore.
Yeah, I've been pouring money down this hole for a long time, and the hole hasn't gotten any shallower. It's still a hole. So keep that in mind.
So lack of fundraisers.
And maybe
lack of participation in fundraisers.
And again, back to the participation thing. But if you need fundraisers to float your organization, and you don't have people that are supporting the fundraisers to support your organization, what do you really have?
We did a pretty good sized fundraiser here not too long ago, and the organization that
the larger organization
that we held it at,
sponsoring organization,
we had people from outside the organization show up, but we didn't have anybody from our organization show up.
We had two.
Oh, we had two.
We had two.
Well,
aside from the people that were part of the smaller group
I'm going to say
working at.
Two, whoop-de-doo.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking that's two. That's a 1% participation. If
which tells me
real quick, less than 1%.
Which really showed me the total apathy of the organization and the people within it.
They really, really don't care.
They just really well, in my mind, they put the stamp on it. We don't care.
We got a message. We got a clear message.
Now, that's a hard one to suck down, folks.
I'm still sucking on it.
So,
but be aware, if you have no support, no participation, your funds are getting cut off, take a look, because it might be time to just stop.
Well, we're going to talk about that. First, I want to talk about this.
The denial.
This denial or disbelief situation.
Right.
Because these are some actual quotes that I was told, just so you know. When we said, hey, there's a situation we need to address it, they said, everything's okay. I don't believe you. We're doing exactly what we've always done. What's the problem?
Well, the problem with that is that law of diminishing returns, and it's one of my favorite truthful laws that keeps coming up everywhere. That if you keep doing everything the same way, you're going to get less, not the same or more. You have to make changes. Pay attention.
And this is the one that Robert and I both just started laughing at because what we heard back was, well, you're just bringing this up because you want to be in charge.
No.
And both of us went,
no. Big no. I don't want to be in charge. I just want you all to acknowledge that you need to take a look at what's going on and do something different. And I do not have all the answers. We do not have all the answers. Someone out there always has a better answer than me. And I'm happy to take your answer.
And believe me, Robert and I use the collection of minds when we look at stuff. We put it out there for a lot of feelers, a lot of people to give us a lot of different information. Well, and what do you call that? You call that something special.
The wisdom of the crowd.
The wisdom of the crowd.
It was a really nice TV show a couple years ago.
I'm going to tell you that what Robert and I have really sought that out and used it more and more.
Well, And it's spreading because we have a friend that just used it to get her new name badge design. And it was interesting because the first set of responses that came back were 50-50 over 2 designs. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. 50-50, really? That seems so odd. It should be 80-20.
And then it started really chopping out.
And then it went the other way. It went in one direction, and she has a new name badge. But those are the kinds of things when you're because I've been doing apparel decorating, targeted to small businesses and small groups for almost 30 years. I can tell you that before you give me a design, show it to your friends, show it to your family, show it to acquaintances, show it to business people, and say, does this design, does this layout send the message that I want you to receive? And if not, change it.
And that's a perfect lay-in.
Dick worked for a huge corporation. And when we found out how many different crowdsourcing things they did, where they sent out to different groups and target groups and everything else all across the country to say, what does this say to you? Before they came up with the logo. Yeah. And I got to tell you, within 3 months, they had done some alterations to the logo because it was not usable the way it was. And any decorator could have told them that to begin with, but they didn't ask us. So keep in mind, those are important. Corporations are doing it. That Nike swoosh had a lot of work behind it.
It sure did. So this thing of disbelief, when you're in an organization and you see something starting to happen, this thing of disbelief will pop up. And I guarantee there will be some friction. There will be some rub. Yeah. Because some people just truly like things the way they are, and they can't see it.
Right.
Now, what happens when they do, though? When this wake up things happen? Now, these are some comments we got when the wake up happened.
Okay.
They said, "Wow, I just never noticed. We were just moving along." And this one was the one I liked. I've just been so busy trying to keep this thing afloat. I just didn't have time to even think about it going downhill.
Right. You didn't notice. I think at this point is where the fight or flight.
It certainly comes
into it, and the people that are involved that notice it's on a downward spiral, if they don't want to be involved in a losing organization, they're gone.
No, people really want to be with winners.
They want to be with winners. If they've been happy up to that point, and also they notice there's a major problem, now they're in shock and they're gone.
Yeah.
And somewhere along the line, somebody will come up, hopefully, with a reason to keep together or a really good reason to stop.
Well, we all know that when no action isn't involved here.
Right. There's no action.
It's just a slow death.
There's a definition of death that says inability to move. So keep that in mind. If you can't move one direction, up, down, forward, back, sometimes you need to take a step back.
Yeah.
But you have to go back to move forward at times. But just understand that this is a death now.
John Maxwell says at this point, some people are just really dead. They just didn't know to lay down yet. So when you think about that, it's really true in especially nonprofit organizations.
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
For sure.
Now, if you decide to take some action, though,
right,
there's some things that's accountability situation. First of all, you need to evaluate where we are at right now.
Right.
And that can be painful.
Mm-hmm.
And because we've been so used to doing things a certain way, and now we're
we always did it like that.
And we're seeing that, we just really haven't changed with the time, or people changed and we didn't.
Situations change, cultures change.
So those choices that need to be made during the evaluation time, they can be painful. But just remember, pain equals gain.
Yeah.
And that's really a true statement. Okay? So the reevaluation. Are we going to reorganize? Well, that's part of the evaluation problem. One of the situations there is who are the people on the board? Who are the people in charge? Did we place them just because they could, fog a mirror and we needed to have a name in that situation, or were they really the right people in the right job to help the organization move ahead?
And at this time, it's the right person, the right job at the right time.
So there's a lot to this.
Be aware.
There's a lot more than just, hey, we need somebody there. Whoa, Billy Bob can do that. Well, does Billy Bob know how to do that? Well, it doesn't matter. He's going to do it.
Said he'd do whatever he needed to help us. Okay.
You know,
Sit in a chair and say nothing?
And
Not
that's the wrong kind of thing. That's what
be aware.
had gotten you where you're at. So the evaluation part is super, super important.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, to take action, maybe you just need to bring the troops together and rally the troops. Be real honest of what's going on and what's not going on, and where you're at in the evaluation process.
Be aware. I wanted to, when I read this, I wasn't sure you don't need to rally the troops first. And there are times when you probably need to have everybody get together and say, hey, look, here's where we are. We're broke or we're in debt, which is even worse. We know we need to do some reorganization. We need to evaluate what we've been doing, how we've been doing it. What do you all think? Do we go forward or do we stop?
I think that's a perfect time to rally the troops and bring them in for the evaluation.
And make it, and don't have it be a big open meeting. You're going to need to have small groups that can sit at a table, and no more than 8 or 12, and less is at this point 3 or 4 or 5 is better in a group.
I think so too.
Where people, and make them feel comfortable to open their mouths and their minds and their hearts, and give you some ideas on the directions you need to go.
Well, as leaders, that's part of our world, is to set the stage. So it's open, honest, and communication to and from, by the way.
Both ways. You're going to hear things where you say, I had no idea that was going on, or I wish I didn't hear that, but I know it's probably true because you're telling me. And we made a commitment to be honest and also make a commitment not to take anything that's said outside the room.
Right.
Because some people will not open up if it's going to come back and kick them in the butt a week later from somebody else that says, I heard you say, what were you thinking? Well, I was thinking along getting reorganized and what that required and what was needed to do that. And sometimes those are hard, harsh changes that need to be made because they weren't made incrementally over time. Again, rally the troops. You got to get everybody on board.
And so if the decision was to take action and stay, everybody needs to know what's involved. It could be time. What's the time commitment I'm going to have to put in to keep this organization up and running?
Because we know it's not just the meeting time.
Okay.
It's a lot of time outside the meeting.
It could be, do I have a special talent that I could add to?
Right.
Say, talent. Yeah, I bet you've heard this on Sunday. And really, money. What's my investment? And when we look at organizations, the investment needs to be, what's the investment in myself? What am I investing in myself as well as in what am I investing in the organization?
Yeah, my time, my talents.
You see, it's more than just money, but money always is a part of it. No doubt about it.
There are organizations where you actually buy your seats on the board by how much money you donate.
I don't like those, but I've been a part of them.
We understand they have to exist for the organization to float. Because we need that money. We also understand that just because you're giving me a big check doesn't mean you're going to have anything to say or that what you say is important or useful. And keep those things in mind.
So you
have to evaluate every step of the way.
You need to also, if you're going to stay, have total belief. You've got to want to.
You have to be committed.
And by that's exactly right. I think you have to be, I hate to use maybe these terms, but you're either all in or you're all out.
Or get out.
and I, we've been in enough organizations across the board to understand that if you're not all in, you're just a chair sitter. We love you, but I'm going to tell you what, you're not the kind of person that we're looking for. And
probably not.
You're not the kind of person that's going to add to this organization.
Right.
So do yourself a favor. Do the organization a favor. Say no.
Right, correct. Show up for major events or things like that, parties, activities, social things, fundraisers, but don't take a seat on the board.
I am going to look at something that's maybe some of you are going to say that Robin and Dick are going to be negative on this, and we're really not.
Well,
but there are times, quite frankly, organizations do need to close their doors.
Right.
Now, Robin and I truly believe, though, there are times when you can close the door and come back stronger. By that we mean you come back with a new name, a new vision, and a new mission.
And sometimes you have to do that.
And I believe sometimes that is a true statement. And we've seen this in organizations as well as in
Well,
churches.
and obviously, this came about in a civic organization that Dick
Mhm.
was involved in, and became eminently clear at one point that they really didn't want him, so he stopped going. But the guy that originally started it had an idea and a theme and a goal, and they were very good. He had all that vision, mission, all in place. But because other people got elected into the higher positions and they had different ideas that they spread around, eventually that organization closed.
Well,
And he opened it a month later with a new name and back to the original vision. And he had different people involved,
yeah.
got rid of the troublemakers, and decided they didn't really need a bigger organization to have their small organization anymore. And they were fine.
Well, they didn't really have troublemakers. What they had
Yeah, they
was
did.
is they had people who just couldn't see the vision.
I couldn't see the big vision.
And so when they were placed on the board, they really weren't buying into the vision, and they weren't buying into the mission and the strategy.
Right.
When we place people on boards for money or for name recognition,
Or
we
for their
need
leadership.
we need to realize that maybe those people are on the board, but they're really not going to be part of the decision making opportunities.
Oh, and this goes back to Robin's highly suggested um, things that when you're interviewing people, and you should interview people, there should be at least two people interviewing people for a position, whatever it is, on any board. Don't just grab somebody because you think you know what they can do or have done or will do. You need to do an interview with your expectations and the goals of the organization and all that. But the main thing I'm getting here, and do take note of this, write down the questions, write down the answers, sign it, date it, and keep it. Because when that person decides, some people get into the head position, they become dictators, not leaders.
Yes.
And they change the whole agenda to their agenda, and you have to go back and say, well, look, back up a step. This is not the agenda for the organization. You got to do da 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 da, and you've got concrete evidence. On this date, you said this. You can't change your mind that many times. It doesn't fly.
Robin's bringing up a very good comment here.
Oh, goody.
Okay, when we're really looking at people to put on boards, we need to take the time.
Right.
We need to invest the time.
Invest the time.
To really do some research and ask some questions. Write the questions down. We have found over and over that people get on boards and it was, hey, Rob, you want to join? Oh, yeah, okay, here, sign here. And all of a sudden you're on a board and you were given no information.
Always ask for a job description.
One of the things that closed down this organization that Robin was talking about is when I was asked to be on the board, I asked for their vision and mission statements. I also asked for their budget. I asked for, their operating procedures. I asked for a lot of things, and the person that was in charge at that time told me that they just weren't necessary to be given to me.
Oh, that should have been a clue.
That was my first big check off in my head going, I think I've made a mistake. But the gentleman who asked me to come on board, I trusted. So I stayed around for a little while. And the more I stayed around, the more I realized that the person in charge had all gone to her head. She really violated every one of our things.
Our visions and our missions. Yeah,
and
good.
Next thing you know, people were walking away. When it closed down, it was a terrible thing. When it was reopened under a new name and new thought process, it really wasn't a new thought process. But we learned some things that we needed to do, and that was write things down when we interviewed people and to keep those. It was a way to keep accountability on both sides of the table.
Correct.
That's why when we work with organizations that we see that are in distress, when we're looking through and we're looking at some of the things, the causes and the opportunities, it's usually because it did run on autopilot.
Right.
And it ran well on autopilot. It might have ran well on autopilot for 20 some or 30 years. But sooner or later, autopilot starts to take and dwindle down. And if you're an airplane buff, you know how autopilot works on an airplane. It only lasts for so long until you run out of fuel. And no matter what, when you run out of fuel, autopilot no longer helps.
It seems like it should cut off slightly before you run out of fuel.
It doesn't.
Oh, okay. I also wanted to interject right here that I think Dick and I are talking about two different organizations.
Which
proves that this happens. It's not just a one-shot deal. And I think organizations, when you're going into a position where a lot of the practice right now, a lot of organizations just start out in one position and move up to the highest position. I personally disagree with this because I think a secretary has a different set of skill set than the head. I'm just saying, than the treasurer, and there's a different skill set involved. I also think that organizations need to have some kind of long-term plans, and they don't. Frequently, they do not. Is your plan just to tread water and hold everything together the whole time you're there? I had a person that replaced me one time say, "Oh, status quo, status quo, status quo," and I dropped my jaw. I don't know what to say to that because we knew when I came in 2 or 3 years before that there needed to be some changes, and I was invited, again, interviewed, discussed expectations to come in and make changes to grow the organization. And the person that I replaced came back in and said status quo. She didn't even know what the status quo was.
Yeah.
And they have been struggling ever since. It's been 10 years.
Well, here's the thing.
They're struggling.
Many different organizations, many different things. As leaders, here's what I'm going to tell you our main job is to grow more leaders.
Grow more leaders. Replace yourself.
But here's the thing. Not every leadership position is going to fit everybody.
Correct.
And that's what Robin's trying to tell you.
Mm-hmm.
If you've been the treasurer, there have been treasurers I've met that could move into that president's position.
Mm-hmm.
Not all of them.
Not all treasurers should be put in the treasurer's position.
And here's what I'm going to tell you is not all presidents should have been in that position.
That's right.
It takes a certain skill set. That's why you need to take the time to invest in the organization before you sign someone to a position or a job.
Right. On that same note, if the position you're assigning them to is the head is strictly a talking head, no expectations for leadership or development or growth or any of that kind of thing, don't put someone with those talents and skills in that job.
No.
Because you're all going to go crazy.
It'll drive them nuts.
Right.
But here's the thing. The reason Robin and I are talking about this with you today on the Leadership Wrangler, the Leadership Corner, is because not just one, but I'm working with another organization right now going through this. Robin's working with another organization that's going through this right now.
Right now. It's
and
hard.
These are not things these are things that have happened over and over. We've seen them happen over and over in many different organizations, not just one or two. But we're both involved in a situation right now where we are on that cusp of having to work with organizations who are in distress.
And to make a harsh decision about whether to make major changes based on input from your people, or just say, we're tired, we're old, you need to stop. And
So
that's
anyhow,
sad. That's sad.
Here's what I'm going to challenge you all to do. If you're out there listening and you have an organization that this distress is happening, would you please send us an email or give us a phone call and let us know what is going on and how you're handling it. Maybe we can be of help and service to you.
Yeah, because we could use some new ideas.
So that, phone number 727-422-1833 or email dick@ewfw.org. Well, I see our time is coming to a close. So on behalf of myself, Dick Powell, and Robin Powell, and our whole Leadership Corner team, we want to say thank you for being a part of today's program. Our hope is that you have received a nugget of wisdom and guidance that will help you build your leadership ability. Now, if you have any questions or comments on today's program, don't hesitate. Give us that call, 727-422-1833. Send me an email, dick@ewfw.org. Go over to the website, www.ewfw.org. Spend some time. There's a place to send me a note there, too. And when you're ready for your organization to have a leadership seminar, give us a call. get on our calendar, because I'll tell you what, we're booking up quickly every single year. So we'd love to help you out. Now, Robin, you got anything you want to say to close us out?
Oh, not really. Just be aware, pay attention, evaluate, get people on board.
All
Pay
right.
attention.
Well, until next time, this is DW the Wrangler saying, ride hard, ride fast.